Welcome. My name is Amy Jean Nickoloff, and this is episode 8 of Mother's Writ and Wisdom. Topic today is sacrifice, and I want to talk a little bit about the gestational space that we're in and the mother's job as she goes around nursing her children with the connectedness of minds that I've described in previous episodes as a sort of umbilical cord to help children get into their promised lands. Somebody said to me recently that they loved that I am at all. And it was in response to an ad I had placed about on social media about the third volume of my memoir, which I'm thinking about publishing. I'm not sure yet. At any rate, the idea of being at all, I suppose, is great if you are on the receiving end and being nursed back into your mind. But as a mother in a gestational space, you can imagine as you circle around that your mind would turn into knots or a Tower of Babel. Genesis 11:4. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we shall be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth." And of course, everybody wants to be made whole, have use of their own mind, and be named. It's part of evolution, birth, as described in Revelation, and self-actualization to know who you are without others' voices or thoughts in your mind when you're tethered to the connectedness. Of course, birth is a painful process for the children and particularly for the mother giving birth. And if you can imagine to be at all or to have your mind spread around time and space, that would be a whole lot of noise and voices and thoughts in your head. And that could easily make one say that being locked out of your own mind or locked out of the use of your mind, hearing all that noise, could also be considered a blessing. Of course, you can't self-actualize or be born whole yourself while you're in that state. And that brings me to Judges 8, chapter 8, verse 9. So he said to the people of Penuel, "When I come back victorious, I will break down this tower." And it makes me wonder how many times Mother Nature is being rebuilt, and at what point is this not possible to rebuild and give birth again? And that brings me to chapter 14 of The Kingdom Has Arrived, Volume 1, Foundations. Locked out of heaven, the Tower of Babel. Now the whole earth had one language and few words, and as men migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its tops in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." Genesis 11, 1-4. When my youngest son Nicholas was a year old, Charles mentioned that I seemed more tired than usual. Of course I was tired, I reasoned. I had 1, 3, and 5-year-old boys. But my fatigue increased and my health deteriorated quickly. I was waking up stiff and was having a hard time getting through my day. My doctor increased my thyroid medication, but it was not regulating. I had been diagnosed with an underactive thyroid at the age of 18, around the time my mom passed away. It was a hereditary disease from which many women in my family suffered. One afternoon, at the age of 32, I had a sharp pain in my right side that shot up my spinal cord, and the entire right side of my body became numb and tingly. My brain faded into a fog where I was watching my body die before me. I felt like an onlooker, observing an enemy attack my body and strike me down with no ability to defend myself. I kept a detailed log of my symptoms and carried the diary with me from doctor to doctor for months. Below are a few entries from the log. May 1999. Started getting tired and stiff. Thyroid levels were off, so the doctor increased my Synthroid dose. It didn't help, so I went back in June and had my TSH and found my TSH was even higher. The doctor upped my Synthroid dose again. June 1999. Extremely tired with lower back and pelvic pain on the right side. Also experiencing frequent urination. The doctor tested me for bladder infection. Everything came back negative. July 1999. Started having numbness and tingling in my right leg and right arm. Sick to my stomach, no appetite, and losing weight. Fatigued. Day 1. Sharp pain in the right side of my lower back. Pain moved to my right leg. Still tired and sick to my stomach. Frequent urination and pain in my urinary tract. Day 2. Sharp pains in my lower back and abdomen. In the evening, pain moved to the rib cage and upper back, and then to the chest and upper back. Almost like a shock went through my body. I still have flu symptoms, shortness of breath. Day 3. Sharp pains in neck and shoulder on the right side and difficulty swallowing. I feel like I'm being choked. Still sick and tired. Woke up at 4 a.m. and felt like something was attacking the right side of my body. Numbness in my limbs comes and goes from day to day. Day 4. Both sides of my body are now feeling numb and tingling. Having some balance problems and still have choking feeling on the right side of my neck. Cried the entire day because something is paralyzing me. I can barely walk. Still have pain and shortness of breath. Day 5. Woke up with a burning sensation on the surface of my arms and legs. I am now dragging my legs and holding on to walk. Whatever it is attacked the left side of my body at 4 a.m. this morning. Sick feeling is gone, but no appetite and tingling all over my body, including my face. Day 6, 7, and 8. Same symptoms continuing. Attacks are going back and forth from the left side of my body to the right side. Day 9. Had an MRI. Day 10. Ringing in my right ear this morning. Had trouble sleeping last night and feel like I'm in a brain fog. MRI came back negative. The doctor called the doctor to see if maybe I could be on an antibiotic just in case it's a bacterial infection. The doctor started me on doxycycline. Burning in my right knee, right hip, and elbows. Ankles stiff too now. And still have tingling sensation on my body and tongue. Day 11. Felt a mild attack on the right side of my body at 4 a.m. I woke up with more energy, still having tingling sensation and slight brain fog. Feel like I'm getting some sensation in my limbs, but have knee and elbow pain and clicking in my knees. Feel like I went from almost paralyzed to half alive. Is antibiotic working? My symptoms grew progressively worse. I had numbness and tingling all over my body, floaters in my vision, pain in every muscle, and no energy. I tested equivocal for nearly everything. They ran everything that they ran blood work for, with no diagnosis. My body refused to stage a revolt and fight back. I went from doctor to doctor, getting MRIs, lumbar puncture, and blood work. I was treated for Lyme disease, CMV, and the Epstein-Barr virus, but with no resolution. The loss of my peripheral vision terrified me, and now that I was exhausted from months of searching for a diagnosis and treatment, weariness settled into my bones. The log in its entirety is in Appendix A. I presented that log to many physicians with no success in a diagnosis or recommended therapy to reduce my symptoms. After a while, I stopped keeping the log. Doctors proved to be useless soldiers in my battle. Charles's mom had been praying for me for months. One day, Charles arrived home to find his mom kneeling in front of me with her rosary, praying as I sat in a rocking chair sleeping. I hadn't met someone since my nanny who prayed feverishly like Francis. She was a great comfort. My fatigue and weariness impaired my ability to care for my sons, and I relied heavily on my two best friends, Mary Ellen and Bonnie, and their husbands. Even when the numbness and tingling subsided and my vision returned, I was unable to make it through an entire day without a nap or break from the demands of raising 3 young boys. And luckily, my friends stepped up to help in spades. I would not have survived without them. I was convinced that I was destined for a diagnosis of MS like my sister and looking at a life of suffering and uncertainty. Not that life isn't uncertain for all of us, but something about the uncertainty being defined petrified me. I would rather not know, stick my head in the sand, and just be dead one day. Other than the knot of blood vessels on the left side of my brain, described as a rare pattern that should not affect me, there was no diagnosis. Eventually, I decided to go with the neurologist advice to just continue with my life as if I had some sort of brain fart. A hiccup in my neurologic history is how the doctor described it. So much for medical doctors, I thought to myself. I would add them to the list of pointless counselors who had crossed my path in recent years, which also included psychiatrists and God. I would be self sufficient, except for my family and friends, of course, an island of my own sorts. Further effort to find outside help seemed futile. Chapter 15 Frozen. Charles was offered a promotion to run a company in Maine. I was devastated to leave our family and the strong support system we had built in Pennsylvania, especially now that we had 3 little boys. But Charles was excited by the new career opportunity, and it crossed my mind that the change of scenery and weather might be good for my weakened body after a battle with an unexplained neurologic virus. I was feeling much better and I was regaining my energy, but I was not the same vibrant woman I had been prior to the illness. The numbness, tingling, and pain in my right hip would surface intermittently, threatening me with another attack. I pushed the fear out of my mind and focused on my sons to keep me going. Finally, my body began to stage a revolt on its own. Where doctors had failed me, I muddled my way through, slowly regaining some of what was lost in 1999. We settled in Falmouth, Maine, where beauty abounded. People moved at a slower pace. Many had relocated to get away from the stress of a bigger city. I physically began to feel strong again. I even ran a half marathon. Charles thrived in his new role, leading to great success. His team invented a new product, and he even got his name on patents. I was proud of him, and for the first time in years, he seemed to be happy with his work. The boys loved to play outdoors and enjoyed the neighborhood kids. We got a Bernese mountain dog that we named Sophie. She would chase the boys in the snow or dash around the house playing a game they called 911 Sophie on the Run. The days were short and the winters long. I personally felt like I had been planted underground and brain freeze had set in. It was dark by 4:15 in the winter, long before the boys could use up their restless energy. A light box helped lift my winter mood, but the cold air simply made me shiver. A winter break trip to Disney World helped alleviate the distinct feeling of being put on ice. On the flight home, the pilot circled twice to view the northern lights. The Maine summers always ushered in joy for our family. We would hike and swim, soaking in all the sun, and venture to a rustic cabin. Tricky Pond was a little slice of heaven. Instead of your shame, you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace, you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you will inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours. Isaiah 61:7. Thank you for joining me today for episode 8 of Mother's Writ and Wisdom, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week.